I always feel like it's a lot harder to let your mind wander, and you really have the, like, you are here, you are learning, there are people around you who you can also ask follow-ups, even if they're not the presenter. The energy of the room really helps you stay in the mindset of, I'm going to be learning about things, I'm going to be experiencing this world a lot more directly.
Cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Braden. I have 40 slides in less than 40 times. So I'm going to talk about a pack as an optional parameter. It's a cool trick I like. In this talk, I'll talk about fun with the increment operator, and then I'll introduce my parsing library, and then I'll talk about how I use it in my parsing library. So the increment operator, I saw a cool trick once, and I'm going to change it from the way that I saw it. Imagine you have a counter, and all it does is just count, it increments, right? So I'm going to create a pre-increment operator, and it looks like this. It could do other things. The etc. is a placeholder for anything an increment operator might do. And then you have your post-increment that looks like this. This is a very standard post-increment operator. This is just like, I mean, if you've implemented your pre-increment operator, your post-increment will look exactly like this. But what I want to do is harmonize the way these operators actually look. So I'm going to change the post-increment to look like this. It'll look almost identical to the pre-increment. And then I'll make the pre-increment look almost even more identical, so it'll look like this. Now, if you notice, these two bodies look almost exactly the same. And what do we do when things look exactly the same? There's a fly on me. What do we do when things look exactly the same in C++? This is crazy. Templates, yeah. So I mean, look, these bodies are almost the same. I'm just going to template it. So what should the type of this thing be? Well, it's going to be a reference if the pack is empty. And so in that way, I just wrote an increment operator that is both a pre and a post increment operator. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying it's cool. And it works. So yeah, you can write an increment operator that is both pre and post, and it uses a pack as though it was an optional parameter. Now this is something I do in my library. The body could actually be anything. So in my library, I'll introduce my library very quickly. Parser combinator library in C++ 20. I started writing it in 2021. If you ever talk to me in person at these conferences, I never stop talking about it. It's how I learned almost all the metaprogramming I know. All the types are empty, almost all of them for now. It is fully const expert capable, and all my unit tests are compile time tests. So you can have a parser that looks for the letters A, B, and C in order, and then when I try to parse A, B, C, D, well, the result has a value, and the value is A, B, C, and then the remainder is D. So it's kind of like an optional, but it has this one extra function called remaining. And this, it does exactly as you would expect. I also have, regular combinators that you might expect in something like Spirit or Boost Parser, any sort of general combinators. So, this does maybe what you might expect it to do, maybe not, but you can check out the library if you're interested. I have this special combinator called the modifier. I have these things called modifiers like complete, for example. So complete is basically saying, I need you to parse everything that I give to you, and there can be nothing remaining. But you can also write it like this. You can write it as a function call operator, or you can write it as the modulo operator. I call it a modifier. And then when you parse A, B, C, D, well, this time actually the result does not have a value, and the remainder is still A, B, C, D. Okay. One other thing I want to tell you is the parser functions. So you can call .parse regularly, but you can also call .parse with an out parameter to fill it, and you can also call .lookahead. Now, this is a problem, because I use packs and token to solve it, but I'll tell you what the problem is. Code duplication. Look, I have these three functions that the body is basically going to be the same thing. They're just going to be slightly different. In certain cases, I'm going to need an out parameter, and in certain cases, I'm not going to need an out parameter. So I'm going to generalize this by writing a function called impl. And I'll take a pack where the size of the pack has to be less than or equal to 1. So that means that the pack could have something in it, or it might not have something in it. And if that is the case, well, then I can just unpack, or I can expand the pack into this call thing that just does the right thing. And this will either call this with 2 arguments or with 3 arguments. And that's pretty cool. So this is how the complete parser works. But now for my second last trick, I will show that, look, if you try to push back with this pack, this will actually fail when the pack is empty. But what you can do is fold over the comma operator. And now it's fine. So this statement is there when there's something in the pack, and it's not there when there's nothing in the pack. So that's kind of cool. But I take this a little bit farther this is the implementation of my one or more parser, where I actually use packs in two different ways. Here I am expanding over a built-in comma operator that just selects the right element, or the right value. I have to use this because element is not a pack, but out is a pack, but I need element to be the parameter that is optional. But that's fine, that works. And then I do that same thing of folding over the comma operator in this case, and yeah, it just kind of works. I can do this one implementation that uses this pack, whether it is there or whether it is not there. And it works in both cases. This is the implementation for both parse functions and for look ahead, regardless of what I do. So it just means I have less code duplication. So basically, using the comma operator this way, I'm not saying you should do it, I'm just saying it's pretty cool. So thank you so much.